Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show. And today I got a pretty interesting topic for you guys. And the topic is the Clippers play their best defense ever against the Denver Nuggets in a big statement win. So that's what I want to get into today in today's show. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, we are running a poll because we're thinking of launching a premium platform, the Dreamerspro Premium platform. So we're going to have that in link in the description below in the community section, so you can just check it out. So please just check it out. Leave your thoughts and opinions, or just vote on whatever you guys think. We really appreciate that because your feedback is greatly needed. So please make sure you go ahead and just hit the link in the description below and just check that out and leave a vote or comment for whatever you guys think. So let me get back straight into the content. As you can see, it's a very beautiful day here. This is very sunny today, so I have a lot of energy. So let me just get through this topic. So essentially, what I'm going to do in this video is quite simple. I'm just going to give you a breakdown of the game that I watched last night, and I'm going to give you some of my closing thoughts on what transpired last night. So first of all, the game started out pretty intense, and the Clippers came out pretty focused on defense, which is something I really liked. What I've been noticing with the Clippers is they either come out, they come out sort of like in a daze or in a malaise. They come out and then they may jump out to a quick lead, give up that lead, and then pick certain spots in the game to play defense. If you look at the last game that they played against the Denver Nuggets, they decided that they wanted to play defense in that third and fourth quarter. Is kind of when they were able to take over the game. But you seldom see them play a great defensive game for 48 minutes. But in this case, it wasn't the case. They came out and they held the Nuggets to 3 points in the first 5 minutes of the quarter, which is astonishing to be able to hold a number 3 seed in the playoffs to 3 points in 5 minutes is fantastic. I like the fact that they were making a lot of great unselfish plays, making some fantastic passes. And I think the reason for that is because the Clippers were able to control the pace. I said it before in the last recap of the last game I played. I think it was game 3. It was the Clippers. Bad things happen to the Clippers when the pace speeds up. When they're able to control the pace, attack the basket, get shots, go into the basket, get to the free throw line, they're able to control the pace because once they start getting into the open court, the transition defense begins to give up a lot of easy shots, either corner threes or shots going to the basket. So for them to be able to control the pace, I thought was very good and keep the score low. The Clippers are a defensive team and they want to hang their hat on the defensive side of the ball. So if they have low-scoring games, who cares? Muddy up the game, make it ugly, and win games that way instead of getting into a shooting contest where, like we saw in a number of games against the Dallas Mavericks in the first round. So I like that. Another thing I noticed was that they had a very balanced attack with Zubac and Kawhi Leonard in that first quarter. They both had about 6 points in the fourth quarter, and the Clippers ended up holding the Denver Nuggets to 7 points with 3 minutes left in the first quarter, which to me is astonishing. And I think that was a good sign because for the first time, you can actually see this team live up to their promise of being one of probably the best defensive team in the NBA. And you saw that with their perimeter defense that they were playing on Jamal Murray, who just for whatever reason just couldn't seem to get out of the blocks early on in the game. And I think it was a good sign that these guys were beginning to click defensively. You saw that it was sort of a carryover from the last game in the fourth quarter into this game. Now, Kobe has said it many a times that games, every new game it's a game on its own, and you have to build momentum. There's no such thing as carryover in the playoffs. But in this case, it seemed like the Clippers were able to carry over their defense, which is fantastic, and it really put them in a good position to win. Now, Kawhi Leonard came out steady in that first quarter with his passing and his scoring and his rebounding. Enough doesn't get said about Kawhi Leonard's rebounding, but the guy has been averaging, I think, close to a double-double in the playoffs. If we look at his numbers for the playoffs this year, he's averaging 29 points a game, shooting 51% from the field, which is fantastic. 28% from the three-point line, which I don't like, and I would hope to see that number improve. He's shooting 85% from the free throw line, which is good, but he's averaging 9.8 rebounds. So that's fantastic, and he's getting you 5.7 assists, which is also really good. And those numbers are up from last season in the playoffs. So Kawhi Leonard has been doing a really good job with that. And Denver just really couldn't get their offense going. And I think they ended up closing the first quarter with a score of 26-12. Think about that. The Clippers are able to hold them to 12 points in the first quarter. So for me, that was fantastic. Moving on to the second quarter, however, I wanted to see what I was watching was to see if the Clippers would give up that lead, because we've seen the Clippers go up many a times and then blow their leads. But the Clippers showed that, they still had their concentration going. Now, to put it in perspective for you, to show the job that the Clippers have done on Jamal Murray, in the first 6 games, and this is an ESPN graphic, by the way, in the first 6 games of the playoffs, Jamal Murray averaged 32 points a game and shot 58% from the field. In his last 3 games, he's averaging 17 points and shooting around 35% from the field. The last 3 games are the last 3 games he played against the Clippers. They had played 3 games up until that point. So it shows you that the Clippers are a really great defensive team. And in fact, the numbers that he was putting up against the Utah Jazz may have been a bit inflated, or he just wasn't playing against a really great defensive team. Kawhi Leonard kept attacking, however, and at a certain point he had about 14 points already in the fourth quarter, and the Nuggets began to play a little bit better, but the Clippers still look focused. At a certain point, a team is going to score. You're not going to hold a team in the first half to 20 points, so they're going to have to score at a certain point. And but the Nuggets, if it wasn't for the Joker, Nikola Jokic, they put too much pressure on him because Murray wasn't scoring, and he was the one essentially having to carry the entire offense for the Nuggets, in which is essentially what he did, because he ended up finishing the game, if I look at his numbers, with 26.6 assists and 11 rebounds. But he was really the only bright spot for the Denver Nuggets in that game. And Kawhi Leonard kept attacking, man. Kept on putting pressure on that defense, and he had 17 points. But a lot of his points was going to the basket. And I think one thing that we may overlook in that first quarter in that first half is that Paul George didn't play pretty much at all, because he had 3 fouls, and he had to sit for the entire for the entire first half, pretty much. But the Clippers were still able to get out there and be competitive with their second best player off the floor. Now, the Denver Nuggets, however, were able to pull closer, cutting the lead to just 10 points, which is no surprise to me, because, as I said, teams are going to have to score eventually. These are NBA players, so that was to be expected. And I noticed at certain points that the Clippers kind of went through some dry spells, but nevertheless they were able to pull it together. Now, if we look at the second half of that game, I noticed that Clippers started the third quarter a little bit sloppy, and they started fouling the Nuggets left and right, and they ended up getting into foul trouble pretty very early. And I think that's when Paul George picked up his 4th foul, and he had to sit the entire third quarter. And at that point, I started to think to myself, are the Clippers one of those teams that likes to self-sabotage themselves, where they'll put themselves in a position to do very well and then start doing things to undo all of the good deeds that they did for themselves? And I was thinking to myself, I'd never seen anything like that. And the Nuggets came out aggressive, and they ended up tying the game. But the Clippers answered, though, with some quick threes by Marcus Morris and Landry Shamet. And let me just say, Marcus Morris played a great game. If I look at his final line, he had 11 points off. I think he scored 11 points, got you 1 assist and 1 rebound. But that's good. I mean, the guy still played a great game, and he hit some threes when they desperately needed it. Because Kawhi Leonard continued to attack these guys, and midway through the third quarter, he already had 25 points, 7 and 5, all with PG, virtually playing 1 quarter of that game. And then the Clippers defense began to click. And I think they held the Denver Nuggets to about 13 points in the third quarter, with about 4 minutes left to go. So just to show you that they were able to turn up the defensive intensity again in the third quarter, which is usually when the Clippers usually play well. And, by that time, the Clippers were able to show their versatility with PG off the floor, and they still were able to hold on to that lead and play a really great game. By the fourth quarter, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell started clicking. They started to get Montrezl Harrell rolling a lot to the basket, and I think he had 3 straight buckets in that fourth quarter, which also put more pressure on the Denver defense, because he just kept on attacking the basket, which is something that I like to see. And he finished the game with 15 points off the bench, and it looks like he's finally getting his legs under him. So he played a fantastic game. Paul George made his return into that fourth quarter. He hit 2 quick threes, and I think Kawhi Leonard hit him on both of those threes. And he ended up finishing the game with 10 points. But I'm not going to hold that game against him, because he was in foul trouble all game long, and he virtually played probably a quarter and a half of the game. So I'm not going to hold any of that against him. But by a certain point, with about 7 minutes left in that fourth quarter, the Clippers were up 19 points, and you could just see that they understood that this was their moment, and it was showing me that they had this championship DNA. Championship teams have the ability to do things like this, and that's what I saw from them. And I think that the Clippers played their best defensive game of the playoffs. And Kawhi Leonard finished the game with 30 points, 9 assists, and 11 rebounds. And I think he finished with something like 4 steals, if I'm not mistaken, or so. So he was the player of the game. But the greater takeaway that I have from this game was that I think this is the greatest defensive game the Clippers have played all playoffs long. And what a time to have such a great defensive game where they could really put some separation between them and this team to go up 3-1. And now they could be possibly, closing out this team, I think on Friday when they play them, to make it to their first ever, conference finals in the history of that organization. So for me, I think that was a big statement. And my statement, I don't make the statement lightly when I say they played their best defensive game, because they held the Denver Nuggets to 39% shooting, for the entire game, 39%, and Jamal Murray was held to about 18 points for that game. And my final takeaway from the game was that Kawhi Leonard showed why he is an amazing playmaker. And I think, and I said it earlier in the season, and obviously Doc Rivers didn't hear me, but the one thing I'm very happy about is the fact that they've been running the offense a lot through Kawhi Leonard, and he's been sort of the primary ball handler, and he's been making some great plays. And you can see that Kawhi Leonard is showing that he is an amazing, amazing, amazing playmaker. And I think it puts, excuse the truck going by in the background, excuse the truck, I think it puts a lot of pressure on other teams when you have Kawhi Leonard just, handling the ball, and the ball in the best, and the Clippers having the ball in the hands of their best players. So for me, I think it was a fantastic win. I think they played their greatest, their best defensive game in the playoffs this year. And I think if they keep it up, a lot of great things can happen for the Los Angeles Clippers. So what I want to know from you guys is quite simple. Do you agree with me that this is the best defensive game the Clippers have played thus far in the playoffs, or, thus far? And what are your thoughts, your overall thoughts about all the things that I said, and what do you think is going to happen in the following game coming up on Friday? So whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. And please don't forget to check out our posts, our premium platform that we're thinking about. So please just go leave a vote, whatever you guys think. We really appreciate that, because the feedback is greatly appreciated. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day.